Hey guys, what's up? It's Levi. In this guide we will take a look at how the corrupted dungeons work, go over some tips and tricks, and talk about meta items and builds. We will also take a look at the upcoming balance notes towards the end of this video, which are specifically to improve the meta in the corrupted dungeons. As you know, the corrupted dungeons were introduced with the Rise of Avalon update and has seen a huge activity and interest from the players. Before we get to that, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like, subscribe and turn on notifications. I try to upload a new video every week and recently also started live streaming on Twitch. My Twitch streams are announced on Discord, so make sure to join if you haven't yet. You can find the link to both my Twitch and my Discord in the description below. Back to the topic, the corrupted dungeons are solo PvE/PvP content, where unlike other content you cannot change your equipment once you enter the dungeon. So make sure you have everything equipped before you enter. Prior to the update on the 19th of August, this included foods and potions as well, but with the new changes, you are allowed to swap foods and potions in the corrupted dungeons. This change, by the way, also applies to Hellgates, in which you can now also swap food and potions just like before. Since we are talking about food already, one particular food that a friend suggested to use in corrupted dungeons is the Avalonian beef stew. This food improves your damage just like the regular beef stew and also grants you health regen, so it's super good for corrupted dungeons as you won't even have to think about swapping. However, it is a bit expensive and obviously it's not a min-max type of food for PvP encounters. At the start of the corrupted dungeons you will find a shrine which you can interact with and makes the invasion of other players' dungeons possible. When you invade someone or get invaded, you will be notified both visually and with a message. Now once the invasion takes place, multiple shards will spawn on the map and you will be able to banish someone from your dungeon by destroying these shards, which is an option you can consider when your build is hard countered and it's simply impossible to win a 1 vs 1. When you kill someone you get 10% of their current infamy and when you die you lose 20% of yours. So if your goal is to grind infamy points, you might want to try to avoid PvP completely. If you do invade someone and successfully kill the person you invaded, make sure to loot quickly as you will be kicked back to your own dungeon shortly after. Whilst inside the corrupted dungeons, you will notice there is an information window to the right with a bar that gets filled as you kill the monsters. Once it's full, the main boss will spawn, which typically tends to have much better rewards than the side bosses. Once you kill the main boss, a portal will spawn which will take you to the next dungeon, or if you want to you can also select the surface option which will put you back outside. Now to fill that bar you could kill any monsters you see, or what I personally have been doing, which is to kill all the side bosses. If you then kill some mobs in between, that should be enough to spawn the main boss, which ensures maximum loot rewards from every dungeon, which will only become better as your infamy increases, as the rewards within the corrupted dungeons have a bonus modifier based on your total infamy. As for the side bosses, once you've done a couple runs you will know exactly where they are based on the layout of the map. Something important that's being neglected by a lot of corrupted dungeon players are the various traps inside the dungeons. These traps are both useful in PvE and PvP and have different features, some of which you can interact with and use them to your advantage. There are magma methods that create a lava field that damages both enemy players and monsters. The bloated glutton creates a slow field in the direction it's looking at, often around other traps that will do a lot of damage. The arcane method silences all players whilst putting all monsters to sleep. And the volatile method makes you bounce, which is nice to either get away or catch up with an enemy player. One last tip regarding the corrupted dungeons is that swapping skills is more important than ever. Make sure to inspect your enemy and change your skills on your armors and weapons based on what will increase your chances of winning. It's alright to use your PvE skills whilst clearing mobs, but don't waste a second to swap to PvP skills when you invade someone or get invaded. And with that I feel like we got the basics covered. If you still have any questions regarding how the corrupted dungeons work, make sure to ask them in the comments below. So let's talk about meta items and builds and how to find these. Right after the update, the already popular solo and small scale items and builds saw a huge rise in popularity within the corrupted dungeons as well. You can already guess these would be items such as the Guardian Helmet and Hunter Hood for the helmets, Mage Robe and Cultist Robe for the armors, the Assassin Shoes, Guardian Boots and Sandals of Purity for the boots, the Taproot as offhand, and for the weapons, choices such as the Light Crossbow, One-Handed Dagger and various swords such as the Claymore. Now there are a few other options that see some play but are less popular, such as the One-Handed Spears and Black Hands, and even some underdog picks such as the Whispering Bow. What you want to do is go to Rankings and select Highest Infamy. Here you can see an overview of the top ranking Corrupted Dungeon players. When you click on them, you can navigate to their recent kills and deaths to see what builds they have been using. What's good about this is that you can see what their own builds were, what they were good against, but also what builds countered theirs. Make sure that you only take the Corrupted Lair, kill and death feed into consideration when looking for a Corrupted Dungeon build. Now, believe it or not, I had to rewrite my entire script for this video, and I'm glad I didn't upload this video before, as it would have been completely different and most of the information I would have provided would be out of date very soon already. This is because of the balance notes which were published, which you can see on your screen right now. One of the things I went pretty in depth on in my previous script was the current meta of items and builds, and from what I see in these balance notes is that most of these items are being changed one way or another. So the crossbow's knockback shot, which honestly I felt was super overpowered, combined with the knockback on the passive of the crossbows, will now become a skill shot instead of a target cast. In return, the range of it will increase by 6 meters. As for the hit delay, stand time and cooldown, these will all increase, giving it more counterplay, which I feel is a very necessary balance. As for the exploding shot on the light crossbow, it's not going to count as a dot anymore. Currently you can cleanse this skill with the Guardian Helmet and prevent it from going off, which honestly didn't ever make sense to me in the first place, and I was very surprised to learn that this skill counted as a dot and you could cleanse it with the emergency heal. So whether this is a good change or not, it surely is a logical one. Nonetheless, I personally do think it's a good change, especially considering the overall crossbow changes. The activation phase of the Everlasting Spirit won't count as a buff anymore and can't be purged, which I am a bit double about because you will still be able to proc it if a dot is ticking on you, making for a guaranteed activation without any counterplay in between, which is already hard to pull off. But at the same time, without this change, it would be relatively easy to nullify someone's Cleric Robe by the more experienced players. The Mage Robe was definitely taking the cake ever since the release of the Corrupted Dungeons, so it's nice to see it in the balance notes. As for the changes, it will now only be activated by direct damage, either an ability or auto attack, and no longer by dots or reflected damage. Now I feel that's already enough balance, but it's also getting a cast time and a stand time which I'm not really sure is necessary. It just might be a bit too much, but at the same time, it does create a perhaps necessary counterplay window in which you can decide to back off for the next 4 seconds with a bit of a decision time. As for the Guardian Helmet, I guess we could all foresee a nerf after the long-term popularity of this majestic item, in which moving forward it will only heal for the full value if you are below 40% health. If you activate it when you are above 40% health, it will only heal for half the amount instead. As for the Taproot, the max health and health regen factors are getting nerfed, which also seems like a necessary balance, as it pretty much overshadows any other offhand currently. Hopefully this nerf will make other offhands viable within the Corrupted Dungeons to see some variety in builds and play. Now keep in mind, these balance notes are subject to change, so if you wish to be on top of it, check it out from time to time. I'll include the link to the thread in the description below. I hope this video was helpful and you learned a couple new things and you feel ready to go on your Corrupted Dungeon adventures. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe and let me know what you think of the Corrupted Dungeons and how your experience with them has been so far in the comments below. As always, good luck in your adventures and I'll see you guys next time.